Welcome to Desperately Seeking the 80s. I am Meg.
And I'm Jessica. And Meg and I have been friends since 1982. We got through middle school and high school together here in New York City, where we still live.
And where we podcast about New York City in the 80s. I do Ripped from the Headlines.
And I do pop culture. So, Meg.
Yes.
Speaking of pop culture, we have two movies to quickly talk about in our intro today. One of which is very sad, and the other one is ridiculous. Okay. So we go from the sublime to the ridiculous on this one. The lovely, by all people's accounts, actor Robert Carradine died yesterday. We're mentioning him because he was a lovely human being, but also because he was Louis Skolnick in Revenge of the Nerds.
Revenge of the Nerds, which is a beloved movie. Very
problematic.
Oh my God.
Yes, it's very problematic.
And yet I love it.
You know, because it's so over the top. Nothing is
sexist.
Sacred.
Oh right. My God.
It's so sexist, but nothing is sacred. Like, I think that, you know, every single person is made fun of. Like there's no cool person. There's no actual cool person in the whole movie because they make fun of the jocks. So
the jocks are horrible.
They're but
horrible people.
But like they're basically represented as being mentally deficient. Like, anyway, it is a problematic film in a lot of ways, but it's so beloved that you can't really turn your back on it. But
I think it was also a little racist now that I think about it.
Geez.
But anyway, look, it was the 80s.
That.
It was National Lampoon time. It was that kind of aesthetic.
Yes. And I'm going to go out on a limb here and admit that even though they were nerds, I actually always thought Robert Carradine was kind of cute.
They made him really cute. Somehow he had the makeover. He had the
at the end
glow up that kind of worked.
You know, even as the totally nerded out. But I saw some photos that his daughter posted on Instagram. He was 20 years old when she was born, and he raised her by himself.
Oh my goodness!
And he was really cute. I was not wrong. He was like a child. And she said that in her memorial piece about him, that they kind of grew up together. It was very sweet.
So it's very sad news.
Rest in peace to Robert Carradine. Now, the ridiculous is...
We heard from Nick about Splash again. Thank you, Nick.
Who knew that this would be the topic that would never die?
He says, after listening to the episode that we did when we did the watch party of Splash, and Jessica was really going a little micro on how could Daryl Hannah as the mermaid be unfurling maps in the pirate ship under the sea.
That would still have ink intact.
Yes.
Had not run.
And I thought it was a little silly for you to be doing that, but...
Are you picking on me?
Not in the least. I let Nick do that for me.
Well,
he says, "Oh, Jess, please, did you not see the fact that she has maps?" And maps is in all caps. You complained about them because you also said, how could she have found him in New York City?
My complaint was not how did she find him after I realized there were maps. It was that those were paper maps with ink on paper. And how could they possibly from a pirate ship? And I understand that the entire film is a suspension of disbelief. Trust me, I get it. But there are just some things that I'll go with the idea that mermaids exist. The ink being into the paper being into. So anyway,
So then Nick follows up with, "Next thing I know, you'll be saying that Jack's charcoal sketch on paper couldn't have survived the sinking of the Titanic."
And the reason he says this is because we saw Titanic together, which I've said on this podcast before. We sat in the Ziegfeld, I believe it's the Ziegfeld, and watched that movie. And when that charcoal picture came up, I remember being like, Dick, that is bullshit. So, yes, it is an ongoing pet peeve. But Nick, I really hope that next week you find something else to talk about regarding Splash. I'll be waiting.
Jessica.
Meg.
Have you ever witnessed a crime?
That's a very good question. Well, definitely misdemeanors because I live in New York City. So, I mean, I've witnessed all kinds of crimes. What kind of crime are you talking about?
The kind of crime that results with somebody screaming and the police coming and everyone gathering around.
Yes. I saw someone get her bag snatched and then assaulted in a fist fight on the subway platform. And there was a melee that instantly burst out, and then police came running off the trains and subdued it. So I saw
somebody
that
tried to grab her purse on the
platform.
That's odd.
Dumb.
Yeah.
Well, that's junkie behavior, I would say. It's not well thought out.
So they didn't know each other or anything.
No, but it became a bit of a beat down pretty quickly.
Oof.
And very
What
unpleasant.
was your response as a bystander?
Well, it was mixed. Part of it was, oh my God, I have to hide in the corner and make sure nothing happens to me. And the other part of me, and this is of course the true New Yorker, was, God damn it, you're holding up the train, jackass. So that was my mixed response.
But you stuck around.
Well, I had to. I was on the train and the train was being held. Where am I going to go? And I'm not going to get off the train onto the platform where this nonsense is taking place. Also, I've said this on this podcast before. I was in a really ridiculous way mugged. I had someone jump me in the street.
When you were a kid?
A teenager.
Yeah.
Right.
I remember that.
Yeah.
That's a callback.
So, crime. But I haven't ever seen anyone like shoot someone or like shoot someone. I don't know.
I'm glad.
But I know that you've been mugged. Where are we going with this, though?
Well, I'll tell you in a second. My sources are the New York Times and the United Press. On Thursday night, March 11th, 1982, Bill Zanker discovered that his adult education center, the Learning Annex, had enrolled its 100,000th student. 28-year-old Bill had founded the Learning Annex 2 years previously while he was in film school at the New School. He figured he could teach some film courses on the side to make some money. Friends of his said they'd like to teach a pottery course and a seminar on getting through job interviews, and suddenly Bill had what could be called a school. He invested his $5,000 bar mitzvah money, got a basement office, and started printing a catalog that advertised night classes that would meet 1 to 4 times total and cost about $40. Classes included hot air ballooning, how to lose your regional foreign accent, stop smoking now, your own greeting card business, firewalking, art of flirting, beginning stained glass, chutzpah, the new/ancient power principle, and how to cheat on your spouse. Now, I thought that was kind of interesting. Didn't you write a book called The Art of Cheating?
I did, but I would like to be clear that it was not just about cheating on your spouse. It was 20 different ways to be someone who cheats. It could be cheating the system. It could be cheating on a diet. It could be cheating death. Anything. So cheating on your spouse was the first entry in the book because I was like, let's get this one out of the way first.
You could have been a teacher at the Learning Annex.
There's so many things I could teach at the Learning Annex. You have no idea.
At the first lesson of that class, How to Cheat on Your Spouse, the teacher asked, "How many of you paid for this class with a credit card?" When 3/4 of the hands went up, she said, "Wrong. How are you going to explain the credit card bill? Now, think up some other class that you can claim you went to." The Learning Annex was marketed to yuppies and was often used as a way to meet friends or potential love interest who shared your interests.
Like cheating on your spouse.
Well, they're single or about to be. Classrooms were rented from local schools or provided by the teacher, so the overhead was pretty low. The Learning Annex mostly served as a middleman connecting teachers with students, taking a percentage of the tuition fee. This is a quote from Bill Zanker. We're a marketing company. We happen to be marketing education. Really, what it all was about was the catalog.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember what do you call those things on the
The
corners?
newspaper machines, the vending machines.
Right, but they have for free things, they have a door.
Right.
You don't
put in a
money
coin.
in.
Right, you just open it.
There's
There's
like a
still one on my
flap.
corner right here for a Spanish language, local newspaper.
Okay, and they had that for the Learning Annex, and
Definitely. They were blue. I remember they were blue with Learning Annex stenciled on them.
So really that was his big offering to the table, was the fact that he would print this catalog and that your class would be advertised in the catalog, that many people would be picking up on the corners from these little newspaper
kiosks.
Yeah. By 1987, the Learning Annex had franchises across the country. There were about 50 for-profit, not-for-credit, independent learning centers across the country. Of those, 15 were Learning Annex branches. Now we have Masterclass or YouTube lessons. Bill got there first by selling how-to books and tapes, which were even more profitable than the in-person classes. But back to 1982. Young Bill Zanker and his friend who taught data processing, John Goodfriend, had a fantastic idea of how they could celebrate their 100,000th student and promote the Learning Annex in a spectacular way. They would throw $10,000 off the Empire State Building. Bill called it our way of profit sharing. They managed to get $7,000 in cash and stuck labels on each $1 bill that read, "The Learning Annex loves New York." Then he had 3,000 checks made for $1 to cash. Now, I was like, why didn't you just get $10,000 in cash?
Because he didn't have the other $3,000 and those were 3,000 checks he was going to bounce?
Maybe. Or if you throw 10,000 ones, you lose every single one of them. If some of them are checks, maybe someone will pick them up. Maybe they'll stuff them in their back pocket. Maybe they won't even cash them. You have a chance of a check just sort of going missing.
Okay. So it's still a savings strategy.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, at first I was like, maybe he couldn't withdraw that. Maybe he didn't even have it. But yeah, interesting, right?
They just were looking for a 30% savings.
Yeah. He planned to throw $5,000 off at 1 p.m. and $5,000 off at 2 p.m. He let the press know about the stunt. So by 12:45, there were television crews, photographers, and reporters gathered at 34th and 5th. The folks at the Empire State Building had heard that they were coming and printed and posted a statement at all the entrances and on lampposts outside that read, "The Empire State Building does not condone the dropping of dollar bills from its observatory this afternoon or any time. This crass publicity stunt causes crowd activity that could pose a very serious safety hazard to people on the street. The police and the building security staff have been alerted, and we will do everything in our power to prevent this senseless activity."
Senseless?
Senseless.
That's marketing, you ridiculous person.
In the meantime, 28-year-old Eddie Jewell and 34-year-old Salo Bandez were not on the press release list and had no idea that film crews and spectators and police would be gathered at the exact time that they planned to rob the Bankers Trust branch in the lobby of the Empire State Building.
Oh, boys. Oh, boys.
They entered the bank at 12:45, fired a warning shot into the ceiling, vaulted the counter, and scooped up as much cash as they could before rushing into the crowd outside. A bank guard and plainclothes police ran after them, shouting, "Hold up, hold up." Eddie and Salo didn't get far. Dennis Gross, a store detective at B. Altman's, tackled Eddie, and Officer William Senecki held his gun to Eddie's head while Eddie shouted, "Shoot me!"
Best dramatic reading, A+.
Both the robbers were subdued, disarmed, and arrested, quote, in one of the most heavily photographed arrests of recent times. In the meantime, Bill and John got out of a taxi at 34th and 5th with 5 clear plastic bags filled with money. Chaos ensued, with confusion over what bags of money were part of the bank heist and what bags were part of the promotion. Empire State Building security refused Bill and John access to the tower. They had made it into the lobby. Bill protested, "As far as we know, it's not a crime. Nobody's going to get hurt." They still don't know that the bank heist just happened.
Okay.
By then, bystanders started chasing Bill and John around the lobby, grabbing at the bags of money. Hiram Neves of Brooklyn got $9. George Rivera of Manhattan got $3. I was gonna grab more, but the cops came. Frightened for their lives, at this point, Bill and John leapt into the arms of the police, who took them into custody for their own safety. When asked by the press if this was a particularly crazy day for the police, Sergeant Peter McNulty of the Midtown South Precinct replied, "You should try working here full-time." You can't make it up.
No, that's great.
As for Bill, quote, "We never imagined there would be a mob scene. We didn't want that to happen. We wanted to be good to New York. We just thought it would be a nice street celebration."
Oh, really? You sent out press releases. We didn't think there would be a crowd. How
I
could
don't
we
know
have
where
ever
everyone
expected
came
such
from.
a thing? Goodness.
Now,
A free money call.
before you think that Bill Zanker seems like a charming rascal,
Not really.
a marketing genius,
Clever boy.
he happens to be the man who still walks amongst us
Oh, no.
behind Trump's $8 billion crypto coin and those bizarro NFT digital trading cards of Trump as a superhero, Wild West sheriff, and astronaut.
All right, lock him up. Get rid of him. Bill Zanker.
Boo!
So, just as a quick aside, the Learning Annex is such a New York institution that to this day, it is frequently a punchline amongst at least some of my friends with me, where if you do something well, the next line is, "So, what'd you do? Learn that at go to the Learning Annex for that?" So, although we have to now despise Bill Zanker, at least he gave us a punchline. Something. I'm trying to find some good news there.
No, I mean, it's a bummer. He did, in fact, have a pretty good idea.
And there was even a Sex and the City episode where she does a Learning Annex.
And it was a punchline. Why would for-profit, not-for-credit education be a punchline? It isn't anymore. Now it's ubiquitous. But at the time, it was like, what do you mean? Like, do you get a certificate? Like, education was so linked to institutions that the idea of learning something outside of an institution felt a little maybe scammy.
It felt scammy and frivolous. And
what, you have to have someone teach you how to do that? Well, yes, actually you do. If you don't know how to do something like, I don't know, make a cocktail, you have to have somebody teach you how to do it.
Well, I mean, who's going to just know how to do stained glass off the top of their heads?
Exactly.
Honestly. But yeah, it had a weird kind of fly-by-night. Also, because, like, who are these people teaching these classes anyway? Like, that was part of the sketchiness of it,
Yeah.
right? That it was like, if you're not part of an actual academic institution, is this just like the guy who's the flasher on the subway platform is now showing up with like, here's how to flirt, ladies?
Well, maybe. And in one of the articles I read, he did make sure, and this will not be surprising, that the mix of class offerings included some crazy things like how to cheat on your spouse, things that make people go like, ho, 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 ho. And some like completely legit things that people wouldn't scoff at the time, which is like, yes, I do want to know how to throw a bowl on a pottery wheel.
I swear to you, I was about to say throw a pot before you even said anything. I'm not joking you. Oh,
Like,
these
please
stereotypes exist for a
teach me
reason.
violin.
In 4 lessons or less.
And 4
teach me
lessons
violin.
or less.
Well, I am going to take us back to 1981 today. I'm doing a slight twist on one of my favorite things to talk about. So let us begin. On October 16th, 1981, Harvey Fierstein's Torch Song Trilogy, starring Harvey Fierstein and Matthew Broderick, debuted at the Richard Allen Center on West 62nd Street to great acclaim, and it became a hit that continues to be performed today. Exactly 1 month later to the day, November 16th, 1981, Stephen Sondheim's musical Merrily We Roll Along opened on Broadway, closing after a disastrous 16-performance run. So I read that and I was like, all right, what did Frank Rich have to say about this? Who was the reviewer? What? But before I did that, I actually looked at the review of the revival that just won. Did someone win a Tony for this?
People love Merrily We Roll Along. It has definitely become a fan favorite, but at the time it was not.
It was definitely not successful. So I will talk about why Frank Rich, indeed, felt that it stank. And then what makes a musical that, and as a theater person, I'm going to involve you in this. What makes a musical that tanks so badly do so incredibly well 40 years later? What is it now? Is it, 40 years later, a little more.
Well, I mean, do you want to ask me now?
No. We're gonna get into it. But anyway, so on November 17th, 1981, Frank Rich said the following things. As we all should probably have learned by now, to be a Stephen Sondheim fan is to have one's heart broken at regular intervals. Usually the heartbreak comes from Mr. Sondheim's songs, and sometimes the pain is compounded by another factor. For some of Mr. Sondheim's most powerful work turns up in shows that fail, like Pacific Overtures or Anyone Can Whistle. Suffice it to say that both kinds of pain are abundant in Merrily We Roll Along. There are half dozen songs that are crushing and beautiful, and the show that contains them is a shambles. Merrily We Roll Along has been adapted by Mr. Firth, who wrote the book, from the second George S. Kaufman Moss Hart collaboration, a Broadway curiosity of 1934. While the new version is rewritten and updated, it repeats the defects of the original text even as it adds more of its own. Now we're getting into my favorite snark territory. The plot of Merrily We Roll Along is about 3 people in show business and where their arc of success and failure takes them and their friendship. In the original production, they say we never learn why the characters reached the sad state they're in at the outset of the show. But we do know how they fell apart, but that's not enough. We keep waiting for some insight into these people that might make us understand, if not care about them, but all we get is fatuous attitudinizing. Frank Rich, chewy, yummy. Fatuous attitudinizing about how ambition, success, and money always lead to rack and ruin. There's another difficulty as well. The book's tone often seems as empty as its characters. Meanwhile, the emotional basis of the friendship is lacking. I mean, this just goes on and on. In fact, I wrote in the margin of one of the bits of the review, oh no! Perhaps the libretto's most unfortunate aspect is its similarity to James Goldman's far fuller one for the Sondheim Prince, Follies. That also gave us bitter middle-aged friends, disappointed in love and success, who reunite at a showbiz party. But it had everything the new version does not, most notably a theatrical metaphor that united all of its elements, as well as reasonable choreography by Michael Bennett. Now, this interested me because we've talked about this on the podcast before. Even the set gets panned. they're in a gym and they're bleachers, and it says Eugene Lee's set is a high-tech jungle gym of bleachers surrounded by gym lockers that looks as if it's left over from Runaways, which we've talked about, Liz Swados' 1978 play. As has been true of some other recent Prince shows, the choreography by Larry Fuller is uninspired to the extent that it exists at all. And it just gets worse and worse and worse. Oh, at one point, he refers to one of the actors, Miss Morrison. Her heroine is attractively plump and sassy. I was like, that feels like it's not aging well as I read this. And again, terrible. This one's voice breaks. This one does this. At the end of it, he says, Sondheim's searing songwriting voice breaks through once more to address, as no one else here does, the show's poignant theme of wasted lives. But what's really being wasted here is Mr. Sondheim's talent. So I'm like, oh my God, okay, so who was in this benighted show? Like who had a Moose Murders situation of like, I'm opening in a show and then I'm closing the show immediately. Now, I am not a Broadway aficionado, but as I went through the cast, I only recognized one name, and it's a bit player. And that person is Giancarlo Esposito. So for those of you who are not familiar, he played Gus in Breaking Bad, the devilish, scary Gus. Anyway, so I was really taken or struck by the fact that in 1981, this play, which just swept Broadway, was such an absolute stinker. So looking at the cast, I was like, what does that have to do with anything? In brief, everything. The review of the new one is, to be a fan of the work of Stephen Sondheim, as Frank Rich wrote in the New York Times, is to have one's heart broken. And it goes on and on about how awful the original book was and all of the original problems. And in fact, that Sondheim threatened to leave the theater after the reviews of Merrily We Roll Along. But what it then goes into in great detail is Jonathan Groff and how he is so magnetic. He is so phenomenal in every aspect of his performance that it's impossible not to like this show. The accolades for his acting are no less. He's described as having cold-blooded rage that's terrifying. It's no longer, as it seemed in 1981, the story of the gradual, almost inevitable dimming of youth's sweet illusions, but rather the story of their falsity in the first place. And that is also what really struck me, is you have to have the right play or musical for the right time. And as we talk about on this podcast so frequently, these are some bleak times that we are living in. And the idea that this show could now resonate so many years later, because there is this nihilistic, bleak tone to the work, that these friendships are doomed, they're never going to fail, and success is what will ruin you, and that there is kind of no future. It's like, oh my God. Is that what people are reflecting on? So as a stage person, Meg, I'm involving you now. What do you think could make a musical that is really essentially the same? The book was changed a little bit, but not much. Other than the casting, what do you think can make a play have such a different reception?
Well, I think we have to start by saying that the idea of failure and success when you're discussing the arts is slippery territory.
Mm-hmm.
And so when work is judged basically on the opinion of one man, which is what happened in 1981,
yes,
one man who loved to hate watch, as you have shared with us a number of times, and didn't give a fuck if that meant that the show was going to close in a matter of, I think it was 2 weeks that Merrily We Roll Along.
16 performances would be, I guess,
probably
2 weeks.
Yeah. And my understanding, I don't know a lot about the details of the making of it. I do know that it was not a fun experience, that people weren't really working so well with each other.
Mm-hmm.
But then, a hate watcher comes in and everything, gets shut down. Surprisingly, because, people are in love with Stephen Sondheim. But also because it is a story about the nuances, in fact, of a lifetime of making work. Isn't it interesting that somebody comes in and says, this sucks, There's no nuance in that. Thanks, Frank. Now, flash forward, right? And we've had some time to have that show marinate. I saw a school production of it at Brown when I was there as a student. People love the music. So it's just a question of like how to make the book work. And frankly, how to make a very nuanced story work. It's not so straightforward. And I think it's very clear that people figured it out this time around. And maybe to your point, you need the timing to be right as well.
I think everything you said is very intelligent and well considered and comes from a depth of knowledge and experience. And I do think that, living in a bleak moment as we are right now. Actually, I just watched maybe like 2 weeks ago, I watched The Purple Rose of Cairo with Will, and he had never seen it. And I hadn't seen it in a long time. And I know Woody Allen is
I can't do him anymore.
I know. Very, very problematic.
In fact, didn't we say, can we now finally cancel him with the Epstein files? Must I still watch Woody Allen movies?
No, you don't have to. However, I did.
Okay.
And, The Purple Rose of Cairo is all about the transformative nature of art, in that case, cinema, during the Depression. And a time when, as we all know, that's the golden age in many ways of Hollywood musicals, the absolute fantasy of Ginger Rogers and Fred Astaire and all that kind of stuff, because people had nothing else to hang on to. And it made them feel better. I find it really interesting that for me, the interpretation of such a bleak show being something emotionally bleak and, however Jonathan Groff was described, his performance was described, but terrifying. That people, I think they look for comfort in something that's recognizable on stage in a kind of like, I'm not alone. I'm not the only person who feels so rotten, or I'm not the only person who feels betrayed, which is a big theme in that show.
And it's a good time for cathartic work.
Mm-hmm. Look, I would go to watch Jonathan Groff, find the most banal thing and put it in there, open an envelope, but bleak shows for bleak times. See, and I didn't talk about politics. I went right around it. I kind of talked through it, but not about it. Although tonight is the State of the Union address.
Oh my God. Can I make a prediction?
That no one will be in the audience at all?
I think something really big is going to happen.
Do you think he's going to have do you think someone's going to have a stroke?
Friggin' meltdown is going to happen, and everyone's going to be, their jaws are going to be on the floor because they're going to be like, what do we do? I think it's going to be epic. I think 25th Amendment.
I'm crossing my fingers so hard that they've become little twisted twigs of fury. Yeah.
He was barely coherent yesterday.
Oh God, what happened? Do I want to know what he said yesterday?
Crazy. He started talking about Mamdani asking people to shovel snow, and then he turned to somebody in the audience and said, I fixed your eyes.
What?
Yeah, this woman who was in the audience, he was like, how are your eyes? I fixed your eyes.
What?
And total silence from everybody going, what is happening here? He's losing it.
Well, he continues to lose it worse and worse. I fixed your eyes?
Incomprehensible.
Damn. Well, no, he can't sustain a State of the Union. He's not good. Like, he can't get through 3 sentences. So a State of the Union.
Are you going to watch tonight?
I think I have to.
Okay, text me if something major happens.
So you're averting your eyes because you can't?
I have plans.
You're like, take your miserable life to the television, your boring ass shit, and watch a lunatic blather. I think that, you know what I think? I think he's, oh my God, what would be amazing?
What?
Okay, so remember the scene in A Few Good Men when
you can't handle the truth?
Yes. And it's like, we need that guy on the wall and you can't. I think that's like he might go full Epstein. He might start referring to it. Wouldn't that be interesting? I'm just like writing the screenplay in my head. Like, yes, I did put that boy on that wall. Like that.
Yeah.
What if like remember how on the Jetsons, when their maid Rosie started to like have a malfunction, their robot maid, that like a screw would fall out of the side of her head, like her quote ear, or like he's gonna do a full Rosie the maid. Like a couple of springs and nuts and bolts are gonna start flying out. And I do think that at absolute minimum, there will be a stream of non sequitur nonsense, and to the point where it's frightening. Like it will frighten, because people don't respond well to abnormal, right? So you have like a brief episode of him acting like a nut, and then his press secretary, Carolyn Levitt, like whisks him off. But in this situation, there's no whisking him.
There's no whisking.
Unless they get a vaudeville cane and like
That's my point.
And yank him off the stage.
It only ends when he ends it.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
I know. Who do we know are all major networks and streamers?
Can you see Vance in the background just sort of quietly crawling off like the dais?
Doing like a Muppet walk?
Yes.
Like the,
I'll be over there.
I'm not with this
corner.
guy. Remember when I said I didn't like him and I said that all the Epstein files should be investigated? Yeah, I'm back to that now. I'm back in that. That's the J.D. Vance I want you to think about.
You know that both he and Johnson are like taking Xanax right now so that they will not start twitching.
Dude, they are
behind
shooting
him
up right now. They are just mainlining something. Like they're doing 8 balls all by themselves. Just I saw some comedians doing some kind of like a podcast, but on a stage thing. And one of them, I forgot exactly how he put it, but he was like, well, nobody likes Vance because of his recessed profile. It's like his nasally recessed profile. And I was like, oh, he's right. Oh my God. That's the couch fucker's creepy looking because his face is pushed out. I don't know. So yeah, they're all, I'm happy to, I'm not going to live stream it, like live text it to you. But if anything truly, I love that I'm saying this to you. If anything truly terrible happens, no. When things that are truly terrible happen, I will text you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, how's this for a potential tie-in?
Oh, I'm so excited because I am stumped.
In the early 80s, both the Learning Annex and Merrily We Roll Along were underappreciated. And
I like that.
now we're like, damn good idea.
Yes. You know what? I think that is excellent. And I definitely can't do any better. A+. Yay.
Yay.
Yes, that is the tie-in.